Welcome to Freeze Your Milk Podcast. I'm your host, Bridget, along with my husband, Chris. Podcast where we talk about the comedic side and serious side of parenting, life, and relationships. We are boy parents. We have two boys, Enzo and Rhett, with about a 6-year age gap between the two. You can check out our website, freezeyourmilk.com. Also, feel free to follow us on Instagram at Freeze Your Milk Podcast. Thanks and hope you enjoy.
Hey everybody, welcome back.
Welcome back.
It's a new week, new episode.
Yeah.
We're gonna dive into a little bit of a episode on Bridget and I's relationship to kind of finish up one of our 3-part series. So you'll get a little bit more of an in-depth about us.
Yeah. Hasn't always been sunshine and roses.
Nope. You want to talk about a little bit about how we got together, met?
Yeah, so I think we did an episode like very early in the first 10 episodes. That was like a brief overview of how we got together. But basically, we met through a mutual work friend of mine. And we didn't start dating because I was in a relationship and you weren't looking for a relationship at the time. And you got to meet Enzo right away when he was like 2. And we just ended up hanging out a lot at the same like functions and barbecues and birthday parties and all of that. And then there came a point where I was single and you were looking to get into a relationship. And so you asked
I was irresistible. She's being modest.
You were irresistible. And so I said, yeah. You asked me on a date. I said yes. And that was...
You remember our first date?
Of course I remember our first date.
What happened on our first date?
We went out and you took me out in the boonies. And I slightly wondered if I was going to die.
Wasn't the boonies.
No, you drove me out to a lake out here in Arizona. And went and sat on a dock. And just talked for hours. Like, I always tell people, it was probably the biggest thing that turned me on to you in the beginning was that first date. You just said, hey, like, this is who I am. These are my pros. These are my cons. This is my past. This is what I want for my future. And you just laid it all out there. And that allowed me to also lay it all out there and just be really vulnerable.
Which isn't something that either one of us were able to experience in previous relationships.
Yeah, and that made me say, like, I absolutely, like, I was just honestly going on, like, a casual date with you because I wasn't looking for, a serious relationship, but you seem like you might be a fun person to go on a date with. But, man, that conversation turned it. I was like, okay, this went from me wanting a casual date and not getting anything serious to... I have to explore this. I have to know more. I have to see how this develops and where it goes. And I've never met anyone that has done this and been so open and honest from day one.
We had our struggles in the beginning there.
Yeah.
For reasons. I mean, a lot of trust issues, not necessarily that had to do with one another. But I think it had to do a lot with our past.
Yeah.
And we were trying to kind of get over that.
I don't want to say I laid down an ultimatum, but I kind of just drew a line in the sand and I said, these are, things that I'm willing to tolerate in a relationship and things outside of that I'm not willing to tolerate. And if people in your life are falling outside of that line, you need to decide, do you want to pursue this life with me, or are you good with where you're at?
And we all know the answer to that, I guess.
You're still here.
Still here.
They aren't. I don't feel like it was an ultimatum. I think it was just a...
No, I had to...
Like, this is where I wanted to go with my life, and this is, steps I wanted to take, and having a kid already and having been through a traumatic divorce, like, there was things that I was just like, I'm not going to put up with outside influences bullshit into our relationship.
So we didn't
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, it wasn't as simple as just cutting ties with people, but I ended up cutting ties with people. People that I knew for a very, very long time.
There were people that were in your life for a season, and I feel like they'd outstayed their season.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because it's not like they were at a healthy place in your life anymore.
No,
So-
I mean, I went through.
I think you would have cut the ties eventually at some point on your own, even if you and I had never gotten to be a relationship or couple or anything.
Yeah, I was gone. I was away to a treatment center for a couple of years, getting my mind right, getting my, doing some soul searching, doing some therapy. And when I got back out, the people that were in my lives before I went in were, I had to make a conscious decision. Were these people good for my life now? And honestly, it took me a little bit of time, but I realized that they weren't.
Yeah.
And a lot of people weren't. So I had to cut ties with a lot of different people.
Yeah. That was tough.
Yeah.
It happened to be that you were making those moves already, and then our relationship, I think, just escalated those moves, or expedited those moves. And I think that was a little bit tough in the beginning because it was you without the system around you of people that were familiar.
Yeah.
But I think that first year was really good. And that second year, or just after the first year, we got engaged.
Yeah.
You proposed.
Bora Bora.
In Bora Bora.
Yeah. And then we built a house.
And you proposed with a full understanding that we might never get married.
Yeah. And we still have that agreement.
Yeah.
We're nothing against people that want to get married, but we're not.
Not for us at this time in our life.
Yeah. I mean, we act and treat each other as if we are married,
We call each other husband and wife.
but we are not, by law, married.
Give us like 2 more years and I think we're common law.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's okay with us. I think we're okay with that.
Yeah. We've seen some really bad marriages in our lives, whether
Right, yeah.
parents, friends, my own personal one. Like, it's just not something that we necessarily feel like is for us right now in our lives. And
Yep.
we're
I
good.
don't necessarily need that piece of paper to.
We got the mortgage paper.
Yeah, I've got 2 kids with you. I've got a house. I've got vehicles. I've got
Bank accounts.
Bank accounts. Might as well be. So businesses. But
Year 3. Let's talk about year 3.
year 3 was a challenge.
Yeah. So fall of year 2 into early year 3 was a struggle.
Yeah, we were definitely struggling.
We'd moved into our house.
It was probably the longest either one of us had been in relationships, for one thing. So, we had moved into our new house that we built and bought together, and
It was our first house together.
it was our first house. We had Enzo, and we didn't have any babies yet or anything like that. But we ran into a lot of relational problems.
Yeah, we were not good at communicating,
No, not at all.
and we both turned internal and let our frustrations or problems or annoyances fester.
And then we got to a point where we didn't really like each other.
Yeah.
In those moments,
Yeah.
and it was tough. It was we had a trip scheduled to go to Maldives that we went on together, but we weren't in a great place.
So let's back up. Do you remember our trip was in March, and it all kind of came crashing down in February.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really tough. We were at a place where we weren't trusting each other. We were at a place where we weren't being open and honest with each other. And we were trying to lose weight for
Our trip,
our trip.
yeah. When we went and saw a naturopath or not really a naturopath.
Yeah.
I don't know what she was. But she gave us the same dietary plan and these
diet pills
and these injections, and then I ended up getting hooked on the diet pills.
And you started taking mine.
And then I started taking yours because you ran out of mine, and it just turned into another addiction. And
but the crazy part is that we had told her about your addiction history, and she prescribed that we later looked up and did due diligence on after the fact. Highly addictive.
We didn't know. We were just
highly addictive, diet pills.
Yeah.
But you came to me in February, and I'd started to be my pill count seems off of my diet pills, but maybe I'm just being forgetful. I'm not sure. And then you came to me, and we kind of just had a big, huge blowout argument. And during that argument, you happened to kind of lay out look, this is what I'm going through, and I've been taking your pills, and I don't feel good about it. And you were open and honest in that moment with me. And I think to this day, if I had confronted you and I had been the initiator of that conversation, that we probably wouldn't be together.
Yeah.
But the fact that you brought it to me, made me feel like I'm happy he's bringing it to me, but oh my gosh, I didn't see this.
Yeah.
And how could I be his partner in life and not have seen this? And how am I this detached from him and this closed off from each other in our relationship that I didn't pick up on this, and he didn't feel comfortable until just now bringing it to me. I had a lot of internal self-judgment because of that, because I just felt like we should be in a better place than me, A, not realizing, and B, not being close enough to you to see it.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. I mean, sometimes some people, other people that are, directly involved, it's not that they don't see, in your case you didn't see it, but a lot of people just don't want to see it either.
Yeah.
They don't want to see that other person could actually do that again.
I think that's what made me really scared, and I think that you understood that, because we ended up from that conversation making some really big decisions about our relationship. But in that moment, it made me really scared about the fact that taking that many diet pills can give you a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And you drive Enzo places and you could end up having a heart attack. Or just you could have a heart attack on your own, and that's not something I'm super cool with.
Yeah.
But B, it made me realize that, and I think you realized too, this could have escalated and gone further, and could have impacted myself and Enzo and you.
Mainly Enzo.
Yeah, Enzo was kind of the big concern in that.
Because I was, a chauffeur for a while, driving him around, and I remember you being really, upset and fearful, in the event that something happened with me and Enzo got taken from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of something I did,
Yeah.
and how that would just be, terrible. So
it was really tough. It was more than just me and you.
Yeah.
And I think that us having that conversation and being very scared about I could lose custody of my kid if you got in a wreck with him, and you end up being high on something, or you had a heart attack and they found out it was because you were abusing prescriptions, and Enzo's dad could fight for custody, and I don't know if he would have a case or not. I don't know. And it was just scary from all those standpoints. You want to talk about what our next steps as a couple were and our decisions?
Yeah, we had just bought a house. We'd been in it for
6 months,
maybe 6 months,
5 months.
Luckily, we were at a place where we were kind of like, hey, we probably need a break, essentially. And I had to get my mind right. You needed to concentrate on you and get your stuff together, and because you were having some problems too.
That was within a week or 2 weeks of when I'd cut my parents out too.
Yeah, so you were
was a
having,
lot.
you were having a lot. You had a lot of stuff going on, and I had a lot of stuff. We both needed to do some self-reflection. So we basically devised a plan that I would leave. You would stay in the house with Enzo, and I was going to leave, and we were looking for apartments or
short-term rentals
or whatever, but we ended up finding some Airbnbs.
Yeah.
So we were trying to carry a mortgage plus fund Airbnbs while I was staying in a long-term Airbnb, a couple of them. I stayed in a couple different ones. And I stayed at one of my friend's houses for a week or so. But I think we were separated for, 3 months?
Yeah.
3.5, 4 months, something like that.
No, it was 90 days because we set a time limit on it.
Yeah.
Because we said, hey.
After 90 days, then if we come to a conclusion that this isn't what we want, and we'll sell the house.
And everybody thought we were bonkers. And I remember, just to make sure the record's clear, I fully offered to do the Airbnb too and just have the house on the days we had Enzo. And like you and I could like go back and forth and like kind of rotate out.
Yeah.
Because our big thing was we didn't want Enzo, like we already knew it was going to be a stability thing for him, for you not to be in the house with us because he's used to that. But we didn't want to put him into an Airbnb situation.
Yeah. Yeah, but I just decided to do it.
Yeah.
But one of the other requests from both parties was that both of us sought therapist,
individually.
psychiatric help.
Yeah, individually.
Individually. Not couples counseling or anything like that. So we ended up both of us jumped into therapy for, a year.
Yeah.
We were both in therapy for...
Weekly.
Weekly therapy for like a year.
Yeah. But I definitely remember like when we ended up, having to tell some people what we were doing.
Everybody thought, this is done,
Why are you guys wasting time and money? Like, are you just dragging out the inevitable? Like, obviously, if you're quote unquote taking a break or breaking up or not together, like, what are y'all doing? This is crazy.
There was a lot of evil being spoken. A lot of negative, people didn't understand what we were going through. It was not easy by any means for either one of us. It was probably one of the hardest, second hardest thing next to my addiction that I had ever gone through. And because, it's a lot of not knowing what's going to happen in the future. And it
caused there was a lot of, you and I had a lot of arguments during that time frame. Mm-hmm. A lot of accusations about how we felt about the whole situation. And, it forced us to work through
our problems and communicate.
It's interesting though, because I think even like around day 60, we were still like, I don't think this is going to work.
Yeah.
But we said we'd give it the full 90. So let's give it the 90. Mm-hmm. And then in that last 30 days is when we really, we turned a corner. I think in our therapy, we turned a corner individually. And then that allowed us as a couple to kind of start to communicate in a really healthy manner. And we started dating each other again. Mm-hmm. And like, just
being us.
Yeah. Who we hadn't seen in realistically like 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
And the 90-day window came, and at that point, you're basically spending every night at the house again anyway. Yeah. I think it was last, 2 weeks.
I wasn't sleeping there.
You did a couple times.
I think I did a couple times.
Yeah.
But I wasn't...
But you were over a lot. I think I came over to the Airbnb a couple of times, and we had a dinner date, and we watched some shows together, a movie, and it was exactly what we needed to work for us. And our logic kind of at the time is everybody just breaks up. And if that's what everybody does, it's obviously not working. What can we do differently?
Well, and I think that's a lot of the reason why me and you haven't committed to, we've committed to each other completely, but we haven't committed to the marriage aspect of it. Because everybody else does that, and a lot of times it ends in divorce. Yeah. It's your parent, well, not your parents, my parents have, we know.
I have.
You have, we've known tons of people that have gone through these divorces, and we're like, hey, we don't want to be like everybody else. Mm-mm. So we're going to do this our way. And I think
what everyone else is doing is obviously not working.
Yeah,
look at the statistics.
I think one of the best things that both of us, the one thing I really appreciate about both of us is the fact that we didn't look at everybody else and be like, oh, well, they're doing it that way. Maybe that's the way I need to do it. We said, you know what? We're going to do it this way. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard.
It's going to hit our bank account really hard. Like, it's going to hit our pride really hard.
It's not fun. You know, it wasn't a fun thing to do, but at the same time, it was exactly what we needed.
Yeah.
You had the ability to actually work through some stuff with your therapist from not even our relationship. It was past stuff that kept coming up. You know,
and it was stuff
in
that
our
came,
relationship.
yeah, so it's stuff that the traumas that came up in our relationship because of my past,
right?
And just being able to have the time and the space to work through that with a therapist and sit in my feelings, and you know, on the days I didn't have Enzo, really sit in my feelings by myself.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, was it?
No,
I had to sit and work through some feelings by myself when I was out there by myself, just doing my thing. And it wasn't, I had bad days. Like, there was days that me and you didn't get along.
Yeah.
And I was pissed.
Yeah.
But we just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And we pushed each other, I think. And I think that was probably it really opened up our communication. And our communication, I mean, we still, every once in a while, we struggle with some communication. But I think for the most part, we communicate exponentially better than we did in the beginning.
Oh, gosh, yes.
You know, like, we're definitely, like, very in tune with each other now.
We don't love uncomfortable conversations, but we can have uncomfortable conversations.
And we do.
We don't allow them to fester.
Yeah.
If something's bugging us, we'll eventually, within an hour, bring it up.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and that's what's great about it now. You know, looking back on it, it was tough going through it, but we made it through it. And now that I look at it, I wouldn't have done it I wouldn't have wanted to do it any other way.
Yeah.
You know.
So the 90 days came. And we moved you out of the Airbnb. You moved into the house.
Well, we were together.
And then, like, a month later,
Yeah, a month. Yeah.
you decided you wanted to have kids.
Yeah. Well, a son. I wanted to have a kid.
A kid. But that was something coming into our relationship. Like, you were very content with not having any biological children of your own and just being a stepdad. You never felt that you wanted to carry on your bloodline.
Yeah. Very true. I mean, yeah. Enough of that. But that changed. You kind of changed that for me. Enzo changed that for me.
I think Enzo did, because I don't feel like I ever pressured you about that.
No, I knew deep down there was still a part of you that wanted more kids.
But I never asked.
That wasn't the reason why.
Yeah, I never asked it of you. I never pushed the idea with you. I was content to also just, this Enzo is my one and done, you know?
Yeah. Well, and the fact that you couldn't get pregnant. You know,
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
But
Enzo changed your heart.
Mm-hmm. So we ended up, I moved back in, and I don't know, 30 or 60 days later, we're like, hey, we want to try having a kid, having a child. And I went and did my thing, got tested, and you got your device out.
Yeah.
And what was it? 7 days later, you're pregnant.
Yeah.
And 12 months later, 9 months later, we're welcoming Rhett Holden.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about, because Rhett was born a year, almost to the day of when we went to the Maldives.
Yeah.
And to think about, like, how much of a different place we were in a year prior.
Yeah.
And how much growth we'd had, and how much, even just looking back from when Rhett was born to a year prior, just seeing like, wow, like, we're just completely different people now than we were.
Something, the time apart changed us both internally, and the way we see things, the way we look at each other, the way we, feel about each other, and it was very apparent. But even after Rhett was born, we went through, I don't know, there's probably about 2 months there where he was struggling because we didn't know it at the time, it had dairy issues, and he was sick he wouldn't poop, and he just had stomach issues, and he was always crying. I couldn't get you out of his room that was, because you'd be sitting in the chair with him. The only way he would calm down is just if he was on top of you, laying there while you were rocking the chair, and you'd be pitch black in there for hours. And I had to work, and we went through our relationship took a hit during that because I was having trouble relating, or I was having trouble bonding
with
and he would not calm down for me, and it pushed me away. And I was like, the only thing I can do is hold up the household.
You're like, my son doesn't even like me.
I'm like, I can't do it. And I'm trying to help you, but I don't know how to help you. And it was very frustrating to go through. And
we had to have a couple come to Jesus talks.
Yeah, you were at your wit's end with that shit too. You were like, maybe I made a mistake. I'm like, maybe you made a mistake. I don't know.
I don't think I said that to you.
No, but you thought it.
I confided in, a person about that.
You told me later.
Yeah.
Like, you thought for a while that
I was like, did I make a mistake? Like, you're a great fucking dad to Enzo, but like, you're not stepping up with Rhett. Like, I understand he's hard, but like, you gotta try.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know what happened. Something clicked for me. Because I think we had a couple talks. Mm-hmm. You hadn't really said that, but I was just like, man, I need to do something here. Like,
yeah, I think I said it's not an optional thing. Like, you're in this.
Yeah.
And it's not fair that you can be like, hey, baby's been screaming for hours. Like, I'm going to go to Home Depot, or I'm going to go run an errand, or I'm going to... And the expectation, I said, it's not fair that the expectation is automatically always that I have the kids.
Yeah.
Because I did not get in a relationship with somebody to be that way. I got in a relationship with somebody that is an amazing fucking partner. And has been an amazing partner with someone that wasn't even his biological son. So, where's that guy?
Yeah. Well, and then we finally got his stomach stuff. Me and you went to every appointment. You know, we figured out his tongue ties, his lip ties, his buckle strap, or whatever the hell it was. All these freaking...
You know more about breastfeeding and babies' mouths.
Oh, God, everything now. I went to every freaking appointment, and we finally were able to get his gut straightened out. Got him, Mom stopped dairy, cut out dairy, and that helped. Plus, he got on a probiotic to help his stomach, and he came around. And then eventually I fell into a routine. And the one thing that I was trying to kind of really, reiterate to you is you had been through a baby before. Even though Enzo was easy for an infant, you had done it.
Opposite.
You had done it before.
Yeah.
And you even struggled with Rhett.
Yeah.
Knowing that you had done it before.
Yeah.
And that everything was eventually going to be okay.
Yeah.
Me, I came into this like white knuckling it and just trying to bear down, and I had no clue what I was doing. Trying
You're
to get
like,
through this. I had
where's the chill baby that would just sit on my lap and watch TV?
That's just it. I thought I was going to have like a dog, that just, chilled there and we drank beer together and shit. No. But, my expectations were, I think, a lot higher for that. And
you still get stressed out when he's crying in the truck.
God,
if we're driving and he starts crying.
I think it's the instinct thing.
PTSD.
No. It's the instinct thing that I'm driving. I can't do anything about it. Like you were telling me that your nipples get weird. Like if you're breastfeeding, your nipples
in the early stages.
Your early stages will lactate because the baby, it's telling you, your body's telling you.
Yeah, you start leaking.
Yeah, your baby's telling you there's a crying baby.
Yep.
You need to do this. You need to help this baby.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what happens with me. I'm like, the baby is crying. This is your son, Chris. You're neglecting your child. He's right behind you. And that's where I get so frantic.
It cracks me up because he's 19 months old. You still, if he's losing it in the truck, I
get pissed.
You get really flustered, really flustered.
Yeah, I don't like hearing him cry.
Yeah,
it really tugs at my heartstrings.
Yeah,
I hate it. So anyway, now we're, we had kind of navigated that portion of it, and then we ended up deciding that we wanted to build another house, which is the house we're currently living in. Yeah. But in the meantime, we also decided that we wanted to have another child.
Yeah.
Which we didn't think was going to happen, and you miscarried twice.
Yeah. I got choked up talking to somebody about it the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was coming up and realizing, like, we found out we were pregnant with Avery, like, the day after Halloween last year.
Yeah, it was a tough one. It was a tough year.
Yeah.
Or a tough few months after that one. The second one we didn't know about, and you got COVID.
Yep.
But it was tough. It was tough, and we didn't know if it was ever going to happen again. And here we are. It's 8 months into it.
What do you think are if someone came to you for relationship advice, what do you feel like are key things that you would tell them?
Number one, keep her fed.
Keep him fed too.
Keep him fed.
Everybody eat.
I would say it's okay to go against the grain.
Yeah.
I would say if you care enough about the person, then it's okay to try things out of the normal, the normal realm of what everybody else expects you to do.
Yep.
And what everybody else has tried. Try something different.
Yep.
Because there's no surefire way that you're going to salvage a relationship. But if you care about somebody, do whatever you need to do. Go through those emotions together. Go through them apart. And do what you have to make it work. Or don't. Don't drag it out because that's bad for kids.
Set a timeline.
Set a timeline on these things.
Don't say a week. It's not realistic.
No.
I feel like 90 days was realistic.
90 days was a good one for us. I mean, that's a long enough time for you to kind of...
And again, day 60, we still were like, I don't know, this is going to make it.
Yeah. I mean, just see the 90 days through.
Yep.
Or whatever timeline you put to it. I'd say when it comes to kids, it gets easier. It's exhausting now. Like, we're in a phase where Rhett gets up at 4:45 every morning now. Yeah. 4:45 every morning.
Yeah.
And I mean, I used to be, or I'm still in construction, but I used to be in the field, and I would get up, and it wasn't anything. But I haven't done that for years, and it is.
You're older.
I'm older. It is awful, but I do it every freaking morning.
Yeah. It's easier in the summer when the sun's out.
I feel like he's growing so fast, and he's changing so much
every day
that. I go through these seasons, like with him, like anything else. He's just changing so much. Yeah. And, next week he might be sleeping until 7. Who knows? I don't know. I would say just, it gets better.
I would say the relationship advice I would give is ask what your former relationship traumas are. What are things that trigger you? Everybody has them.
Yep.
Every single person. And you won't necessarily think about it until a behavior in your current relationship makes you really uncomfortable, even though it has nothing to do with the person. It's just a reflection of a similar behavior from a relationship that caused you trauma.
Yeah, and it's important to understand that your spouse might not understand that and understand that it's a trigger for you. And it's not really fair that they don't know. So you got to be able to talk to them about it.
Yeah, so I think talking to people about their, people that you're in a relationship with, asking that question, like, what are your relationship traumas? What are things from previous relationships that trigger you now, that cause red flags when you see it pop up in a current relationship? Whether there's bad motive or not, just something can make you panic. A great example is somebody I know said, weddings are a trauma. And I was like, why? And he said, because every time I dated a girl and they went to a wedding, they cheated on me. And so when my current girlfriend said she was going to a wedding, I had to tell her, like, hey, this is a trigger for me. Like, it makes me very uncomfortable. I might be a little grouchy because I'm not there with you. And I've been traumatized by this in the past. And I was so proud of him for, talking about his relationship trauma.
Yeah.
Because it's such a big thing. So I would say my advice is ask your partner about relationship trauma from former relationships, what triggers them. And don't be scared to find creative ways to force yourselves to communicate.
And continue to date.
Like,
We go on little dates,
we do.
but we still date.
You know, sometimes if I'm really struggling on communication or I'm real angry about something, I need to text it out instead of try to talk it out to you. Mm-hmm. Like, you know that. You'll be like, okay, she just needs to text this out because it's just going to come out easier that way. And I'll text it to you even though you're sitting one room over from me and I'm fuming mad for no reason because pregnancy is great.
Yeah.
I'm proud of us. We've worked really, really hard for what we have.
And, we still manage. We're going through season now. We have a, almost 8-year-old and almost 2-year-old and
a very pregnant
mama. And it's not easy.
No.
Like, by any means. It sounds wonderful and, it's great, but it's not easy. And it's very important that you continue to nurture your relationship through those moments because you're going to lose a lot of time to other things. And everything in this world is going to try and pull you apart.
Yep. We have a little saying. You want to share with the listeners what it is? Our slogan of us.
Oh, are you talking about To the Moon?
You and me.
Oh, it's you and me against the world, which is true.
Yeah. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves of that.
And it's kind of cliche, but it is. At the end of the day, you need to make that decision consciously. Hey,
it's you and me, not you.
It's you and me. It's not you against me.
Yeah. And we sometimes have to reset ourselves if we're starting to get at it with each other, and we'll have to be like, hey, wait, it's you and me, not you versus me.
There's a lot of outside noise, that can kind of, make things a little foggy. And just remember you love that person, and yeah.
That's us.
That's us. I mean, we'll continue updating you with our lives, but I mean, I'm sure there's probably a ton of stuff in there that we missed, but we only have a short amount of time here. I don't have 5 years to sit here and tell you.
Well, thanks so much for listening, guys. Hope you got something out of that. Relationships are their work. It's the hardest thing you'll ever work for in your life.
Yes, it is.
But most rewarding one, too.
Yep.
And tune in next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. You can check us out at
freezermilk.com
or Instagram.
Freezer Milk Podcast.
Until next week, guys. Thanks.
Don't forget, parenting is a trip. We are all here on the journey with you together. Thanks so much for listening.